Cecilia, a young woman, wakes up in the middle of the night in her luxurious mansion, where she lives with her husband, Adrian. She moves cautiously, trying not to make a sound, afraid of waking him. Adrian is a brilliant scientist specializing in optics, but in their personal life, he is a cruel tyrant who dominated her completely and treated her with extreme cruelty. Cecilia takes out a bottle of diazepam, a drug she used to temporarily sedate her husband, enabling her escape. After destroying all evidence, she retrieves the bag she had secretly packed and hidden in the walk-in closet and disables the alarm system. Just as she is about to make her escape, she is distracted by their dog. Wanting to free the animal as well, Cecilia unfastens its collar. However, the dog accidentally bumps into a car, setting off its alarm. The loud sound pierces the quiet night, waking Adrian. Cecilia runs out onto the road where her sister Emily is supposed to pick her up. In her haste, she accidentally drops the bottle of medication. Emily, unaware of what's happening, looks confused. Cecilia had never shared details about her personal life. Suddenly, from the forest, a furious Adrian bursts out, smashing the side window and trying to forcibly drag her out of the car. Panicked, the women speed away, and Adrian picks up the package of tranquilizers his wife dropped from the asphalt. 2 weeks later, Cecilia is hiding in the house of her best friend James Lanier and his teenage daughter Sydney. Emily comes to her sister and shows her the news about her husband's suicide. Shocked by this news, she goes into the bathroom and sits in silence for a while. After this, Cecilia finally decides to tell the whole truth about the now deceased Adrian. He had literally destroyed and suppressed her will, controlling every aspect of her life, including what clothes she had to wear. Finally, Cecilia decides to step out of her refuge for a short walk to the mailbox. Among the letters, James finds one addressed to Cecilia. She is surprised, as she thought no one knew where she was. Inside is an invitation to meet lawyer Tom, Adrian's brother, for the reading of her husband's will. She and her sister Emily go to Tom, and he explains what her husband left her and the conditions for claiming the inheritance. Cecilia inherits a luxurious house and $5 million. This amount will be paid in installments of $100,000 each month for 4 years, as long as she does not encounter any legal issues. Cecilia wants to thank James and his daughter for taking her in and helping her during a difficult time. She gives James a ladder. For Sydney, she opens a bank account and will deposit $10,000 each month until the end of the year so she can attend the institution she's dreamed of. They decide to celebrate with a bottle of champagne. In the morning, Cecilia prepares breakfast and James asks her to wake Sydney. As she leaves, something invisible grabs a knife, then increases the fire, starting a blaze. Sydney uses a fire extinguisher to put out the flames. Late in the evening, Cecilia finds herself alone in the house. A sudden noise breaks the silence, making her uneasy. She carefully inspects every room but finds nothing unusual. Suddenly, she hears the sound of a door, as if someone has entered. Determined to investigate, Cecilia steps outside. Her breath turns into steam, and steam is also visible behind her, as if someone is standing nearby. That night, her blanket slowly slides off the bed. Bright flashes of light illuminate the room multiple times. Cecilia wakes up and is startled by the mannequin. She gets up to lift the blanket, hears a sound, and it seems like someone is sitting in the chair. She throws the blanket on the chair to check, but there's no one there. Suddenly, something stands on the blanket and prevents her from taking it. She sees footsteps and, terrified, begins to scream and call for James's help. James bursts into the room, but there's no one there. He is convinced that Cecilia just imagined it due to the stress she's been experiencing lately. The next morning, Cecilia heads to an important job interview. When asked to present her portfolio, she opens her bag and is horrified to find it missing, even though she distinctly remembers packing it the night before. Overwhelmed, she feels weak and collapses. At the hospital, a blood sample is taken, with the promise that results will be shared later. While Cecilia is washing herself, her doctor calls and informs her that the fainting was caused by a high concentration of sedatives in her blood. During the conversation, a bottle of sedatives suddenly appears on the sink, the same one Cecilia dropped when she was escaping from her ex-husband. Cecilia arrives at Tom's office with James. She shows a bottle of tranquilizers and claims her husband faked his death to become invisible. Tom reassures her, saying it's just a figment of her imagination since his brother's ashes are on his shelf. Cecilia visits her sister Emily, but Emily is angry over an email accusing her of greed. Emily hints that the heroine needs treatment and slams the door. Cecilia checks her email and tearfully reads a message she never sent. Sydney hears Cecilia crying and decides to cheer her up by suggesting a girls' night out. At that moment, something strikes the girl and she starts calling looking for her father. Sydney blames Cecilia for what happened, but Cecilia insists it was her invisible husband who did it. James doesn't believe her and asks her to leave the house, suggesting she move in with her sister. Left alone at home, Cecilia decides to call Adrian's number. Hearing vibration sounds from the attic, she decides to go up there. She finds her ex-husband's phone, scrolls through the gallery, and sees photos taken while she was asleep. Nearby, there's a knife and house blueprints. A text from an unknown number arrives on the phone with the word surprise. Cecilia hears a noise, grabs the knife, and goes to investigate, but finds no one. Suddenly, she picks up a can of paint nearby and spills it, and a human silhouette appears, frightening her. She climbs down from the attic, grabs the knife, and tries to follow the paint trail to find him. Suddenly, the water turns on, and the sink fills with paint. Something lifts her up, and a struggle begins. She manages to fight back and escape the house. She calls a taxi and heads to her former mansion. Cecilia asks the taxi driver to wait, and he agrees. She enters the house feeling uneasy. Although it has been abandoned for some time, the dog is still there and happily greets her. Descending into the laboratory, Cecilia guesses the password. It's the date of their first meeting. The rack is empty, but she spots a monitor nearby. Pressing a button, she makes the suit visible. It's equipped with hundreds of optical cameras that enable invisibility. Suddenly, the dog starts barking and runs off. Cecilia takes the suit and hides it in a secret compartment in the wardrobe. Moments later, the wardrobe door opens and she notices a footprint. She tries to attack but fails and falls down, but the dog comes to her defense. Cecilia manages to escape, gets into the taxi, and calls Emily to arrange a meeting. Cecilia tells her sister that she has proof. She was at the former house and found a suit that makes someone invisible. Suddenly, a knife flies up, slashes Emily's throat, and lands in Cecilia's hand. A woman at a nearby table notices, screams, and panic ensues, and people run in all directions. The arriving police arrest Cecilia and take her to the hospital, where she is strapped to a bed and given a sedative. Before losing consciousness, she hears the familiar word. James and the detective interrogate Cecilia. She insists that her husband is alive and is in the room with them. After the interrogation, the doctor delivers a shocking piece of news. Cecilia is pregnant. A few days later, Cecilia is visited by Adrian's brother. He tells her that her mental state voids her claim to the inheritance. Tom explains that Adrian knew about the contraceptives and had long ago replaced them with safe vitamins. He then presents her with two options: either sign away her claim to the inheritance or keep Adrian's child and return to him. Realizing that Tom is working for her husband, Cecilia angrily sweeps all the papers off the table and secretly steals a pen. After the doctor inspects the room and finds nothing, he leaves. However, Cecilia had hidden a pen. She begins to cut her wrist with it. She, having expected this moment, stabs him repeatedly with the pen in a fit of rage.
Get back in bed, now.
You think you're learning how to beat me. I won't ever hurt you. I'll find someone you love and hurt them instead. Now you've only got yourself to blame for that innocent young girl's death.
No, please. Not Sydney. Adrian, no.
Cecilia, don't do anything stupid.
Stealing a car, Cecilia heads to James's house to save Sydney. She calls him urgently, warning that his daughter is in grave danger. Sydney hears a strange noise and, sensing danger, uses a pepper spray can. Suddenly, she realizes something is in the room and tries to escape, but she can't manage to do it. At that moment, her father James bursts into the house and finds his daughter lying on the floor. The invisible man attacks him and a fierce fight ensues, with the police officer being overpowered. Just in time, Cecilia appears, sprays the invisible man with a fire extinguisher and then shoots him. She then removes the mask from the body, revealing that the person in the invisible suit was her husband's brother. Meanwhile, armed special forces break into the scientist's cottage. Hearing cries for help, they find Adrian tied up. At the police station, James tells Cecilia that it seems Tom was behind everything. Cecilia disagrees with the police's conclusion. She is convinced that all of this is the work of her ex-husband, who always thought several steps ahead and was a genius strategist. Cecilia believes her husband is behind everything, and she can't live peacefully knowing he's alive and free. She calls Adrian and asks to meet. He agrees. During dinner, she asks him to confess that he's responsible for everything and that his brother was just his pawn. She waits for his confession as a bug is planted on her, and James is nearby in his car listening in. But Adrian denies everything. Cecilia starts crying and excuses herself to the bathroom. As she leaves, Adrian brings a knife to his throat and slashes it. Cecilia returns, sees Adrian, starts panicking and crying, and calls for an ambulance. James rushes into the house and discovers the invisibility suit in her bag. She hadn't planned to do this, but then couldn't hold herself back. Security cameras show Adrian slashing his own throat, and James accepts this, deciding to let her go.